I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Eichmann.
Present.
Biesinger.
Present.
Boss.
Present.
Ekis.
Present.
Fry. Gross. Present. Schroller.
Present.
Throm.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you all for being here. The first item is approval of minutes for the September 11th meeting. Does anyone have any amendments? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Move to approve the minutes of the City Council September 11, 2017 meeting as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. The next area is public comments. If you are not on the agenda, you're welcome to come forward, share for 5 minutes, give your first name, last name, your address, and your ward. Hey, Brenda. I heard you were supposed to be on the agenda. So
Yeah,
we're glad.
we had a little mix-up, so.
Yeah, so if you run over the 5 minutes, it's okay.
Okay, well, it shouldn't take too long, so. I think Debbie gave you copies of a couple of letters. I'm going to start with the first one about Black Squirrel Night. Basically, I'm asking for the same thing that we've done in the past. Continue your tradition of offering free coffee and donuts that night, which will be Friday, October 27th. Block off Broadway from 7th to 10th Street, beginning at 5 p.m. that evening, which I think is the same thing we've always done. We're going to do we would like to do things a little bit different this year. Instead of just having the costume contest on the trailer in front of United Bank, we'd like to have them start down in the Pony Express Plaza area at 6:30. We'll divide them into groups, and they'll get judged down there, and then have a parade up the street so everybody can watch them. And then we'll keep them in line and go age group by age group onto the stage then, so people can see them that didn't go down there, and give away the awards then.
That's a really good idea, because lots of times we didn't see.
Years ago,
all the
they used to
kids and
have
stuff.
a parade all the time.
Oh,
years
okay.
ago, a long time ago. When my kids were little, they used to have a parade. So the use of the Pony Express Plaza at that time, have the bathrooms open at Main Street as usual, and the downtown sound system again. So
Hey,
pretty
how
much
did the
same.
downtown sound system go on?
Worked good.
It worked fine?
Yep. it
And you
worked fine.
returned
We
it
only had it in
working?
the 7th Street corridor area.
Other than
but
I
it
couldn't
worked.
figure out how to hook it up, because I need to get with Dave and figure out how to actually get it plugged in. I had to jury rig a little, just get it hooked into the speakers.
It needs to be hooked in and taped in, or at least have instructions
keeps
with it,
falling
so
out,
that somebody doesn't unplug the whole thing for the next person to use.
Okay.
Would be a wise, I mean, I don't know if that's
Right.
possible,
Okay.
that it can be
Yeah.
instructions with it, that A
Yeah.
goes to this and B goes
Yeah.
to this, and then it'll work.
So will you be responsible for the sound system? You personally, or who does?
Yeah, usually we're there, and I think lots of times, sometimes Dave is down there, because I think Sandy asked him about lights sometimes, and a couple other
Okay.
things. Sometimes Bruce is down there too, so
Well, if
usually.
Bruce is down there, he
And then
can make it work.
Yeah.
It's a
So,
piece
and
of
I'll be
cake.
around too, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually get it all taken care of then, so.
Does anyone have questions about Black Squirrel Night or requests?
Move to approve the request for Black Squirrel Night on Friday, October 27th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0.
Okay.
All right.
My other letter has to do with, each year we decorate and take care of Santa's house in the Kesterbach Park for the Christmas season. Last year, we added some more lighting on the lilac bushes on the west side, and took the arbor on the west side and made that the entrance into a winter wonderland, and made them enter the south side of Santa's house. The city came and put their big artificial tree kind of in the corner, the southwest corner of Santa's house, so they didn't walk through there. It made them kind of go around. We ran out of plugins, so we only went just past that arbor. We'd like to continue on to the end of the block and on the south side with more lights, make it more into a winter wonderland. The plugins do not work on the arbor. There's several plugins on there. We'd like to have them working again if possible, so that we've got a place to plug in lights for the south end there, because I don't really particularly want to drag cords all the way from Santa's house. I don't even know if we have plugins anyway clear down to the south end for people to trip on.
And there's no, that's the only other place that there'd be plugins
Yeah.
is the Santa House, I
Yeah.
guess there.
There's several of them on the gazebo, but they're not working, and I'm not sure why. If that could be fixed, that would be perfect, and it would just a short distance to the, and along with that, it needs painted. The arbors need painted. The chamber, with your permission, would like to paint the whole thing. The arbor and the two arbors and the gazebo. To do it right, the gazebo needs a few boards replaced. Would like to know if the city would pay for the boards, if we did all the work to put it back together, fix those, to put the new boards in and pay for the paint and the labor to get it done.
Okay. Hey, Dave, you want to come up to the podium for a minute? And give us some insight on the lighting issue?
Years ago, the wiring from the Kester House restaurant went bad. And it was never replaced. It came off the back of the restaurant, went all the way across over to it.
That's how you used to have it run?
That's the way it was originally run.
And the Kester House pays for their own electricity, right?
No, we had a separate meter back there, and that's been disconnected. That's all it took care of anymore. Since they don't do the Christmas lights on the house anymore.
Okay. So,
So if they wanted that powered up, we'd have to take something off of the pole by the Santa House and run out there.
That's my question. Could something come from the Santa's house and be on the breaker in the Santa's house or whatever? I mean, is that possible?
and how involved is that? Your best estimate? And do you have
I would rather
the,
see it put in conduit, so you'd probably just need to trench it down there, put it in conduit and power it up.
do we need to hire somebody to do this? Or you, I don't know what your schedule looks like. You don't know what your. So do you foresee you being able to do it, or do you think we'll need to hire someone to do it?
Kenmore Rock Mill for, guess we can get a trencher and do it.
Okay. So they,
All right, to run a trencher.
so you want this up and running by when, Brenda?
Thanksgiving would be
By
nice.
Thanksgiving.
So that, because that's when Santa's house, the lights come on.
60 days, roughly.
So if
Should
you,
be rerun. If you're gonna rerun it, come off that Santa House, so you only got the 1 meter.
so it won't be, it'll just be labor intensive to do it, but it's not
Yes.
really expensive to maintain? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Shouldn't.
Okay,
I mean, like I said, the outlets are there
okay.
on the building, so just run a wire to it.
Okay, so like you foresee that if you don't get it done in October, we could hire somebody to do it?
Yeah,
Of course, you're gonna put it in the ground, right? So if it freezes, we should do it in October.
Let's hope we
Correct.
don't freeze that hard before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. You never know.
I know.
Okay. So you're not against this personally?
Not personally, no.
Professional.
Okay.
Would do anything.
That's what we like about you, Dave. You'll do anything.
I'll probably just run a couple circuits back there if we did.
Okay.
So probably what, 4?
Whatever it takes.
I don't remember, no, I don't remember how many outlets are back there.
There's at least 3, if not 4.
Okay?
Okay, if that's what you want, we can do that.
Thank you, David. Okay, did you guys have any other questions for Brenda regarding this? I think it's great if they're willing to paint. All we have to do is, looks like all we have to do is supply the replacement boards.
Boards and
I
paint.
think some of the boards are like around the rail type and a couple underneath of it that support them. They're getting rotten.
Okay, well, you want to fix it before you paint it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
And I think I've got somebody to fix them, a volunteer, that will help us fix them.
okay. Okay,
Need a motion?
yeah.
I move to approve the conditions of the September 25th letter from Brenda Stagenborg and the Marysville Chamber of Commerce concerning the Kester Block Park for the Christmas season.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Thanks for doing that. I think it's really going to be pretty.
Yeah, good idea.
It was
Corner.
pretty with half the lights last
Yeah,
year, so
so
if we can get some more.
Yeah.
I mean, long range is to add maybe something else in there too, that would be a light up, or I don't know if we want blow up or not, but something just to add more to the lighting, so.
Yeah, so thanks for doing that.
So what, do we purchase the board and then just bring you a bill, or?
Is that how you want it, or do you charge at Chromies?
Just
Tell me
charge
how-
at Chromies, or?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to if you'll just get with me, Brenda, and we'll work out the
Okay,
details.
all right, sounds good, all right.
Okay, thank you. Keep on Dave to make sure it gets done. So he doesn't forget on all his tasks. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to share? All right, we'll move along to business and discussion items. The first item is an ordinance prepared regarding the Kester House Advisory Board. We discussed this last week.
Move to approve ordinance 1856 for the mayor to sign.
Second.
Any discussion? I just want you to capitalize city. That's
Got
all. Okay, roll call, please.
Beichman,
Yes.
Biesinger,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Ekis,
Yes.
Gross,
No.
Schroller,
Yes.
Crom.
Yes.
Okay, 6-1.
6-1, okay. And the next item is a resolution for the stop sign at 8th and Jayhawk on the northeast corner. I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution number 2017-05, resolution authorizing installation of a stop sign on the northeast corner of Jayhawk Road at intersection of 8th Street in the city of Marysville, Marshall County, Kansas.
Second.
Second. All right, any discussion?
Discussion?
All right.
Could you remind me what prompted the need for a stop sign? Or where did that start?
Oh, gosh, it started about, 6 months ago? And at that point in time, we discussed having 2 stop signs, I believe. Then we realized we didn't own the road going eastbound, so we can only control the traffic of the westbound and 8th Street, because that's what we own. And the reason we chose northeast corner is because it kind of has a blind spot heading west, so it should come to a stop so we can see traffic coming from the 8th Street. So we decided 1 stop sign was all that was necessary.
My concern is we've had other people ask for stop signs, and I'm just not sure how did this one outweigh any of the other requests? Just throwing it out because are we setting a precedence? Because I can think of a lot of other intersections that.
Well, I get, part of it is that it is a gravel road, so it's hard to stop at. Actually, I think I re-brought it up because a truck almost hit me making the turn left onto 8th Road, and if I hadn't slammed on the brake, we would have had an accident. So, to me, I personally experienced how dangerous it was with the gravel road. I think that other roads, when they're, cement and brick or asphalt, we can stop, but gravel is kind of a different story.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, the topography there, it's a higher land. When you're coming west, going east, the hill is higher. If it was level like this and you could see right down 8th, it'd be different. But that sets up like this. You almost have to sneak up on it anyway. So topography had something to do with that too.
I don't really see no need for a stop sign there. I'd see a yield sign, but I don't see no real need for a stop sign there.
Well, I think we kind of had that discussion.
I know, we've had it.
Okay. All right. We will go ahead and vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 5-2. Okay. The next item is a TA project. This has the final numbers in it. The one thing that I did note that I wanted to point out to you is on page 11, we had always, in our recap, the master projects, that we believed that we were getting like $95,000 of federal funds. And this shows the actual calculation is 80% of the 109 max. So we're getting 87,000, so it's a little bit more money for both of us to split. Debbie did call Mr. Mullins today, and he did confirm via an email that they were willing to split the 55,000 50-50. Is there anything you want to add about that?
No, from my understanding, I think that, I thought previously that it was close to 79,000, the city's portion. That's what KDOT indicated to me, so maybe I got it mixed up, but no, that's,
Yeah, it was always 80/20. We had been at 95,000, so when I saw the 87, I was like, oh, bummer, they're contributing less, but that's based on their max, so. Okay, so I guess we want a motion to approve
the authority to award.
the authority to award this
Mayor
contract,
signed.
okay, to Bryant and Bryant? Okay,
Move to approve the
Authority to award.
authority to
award the contract to Bryant and Bryant.
award the contract and the mayor to sign.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? Again, this is a reminder that these total amounts include the maximum for the construction engineering that we had the discussion last meeting. So hopefully it will come in less.
Is this gonna be anywhere, I mean, if we get the other deal going down 77, are they gonna tear all this out and start over, or?
No, BG Consultants said that they're going to work around that. First, we are going to spring, aren't we? So that's beyond these bump outs.
Yep.
But remember the pavement reconstruction doesn't do anything with curbs, and this would be considered a curb, so they only work on the street. Do you remember that? Correct? Remember on the,
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because it was mentioned about, since Bryant and Bryant will be here, asking them about curb work. I think that Kevin
Yeah, I brought
was
that.
in and he suggested or mentioned it, and I spoke with KDOT, and they indicated, well, actually BG, I'm sorry, I spoke with BG, and they indicated that there is curb and gutter planned in the C-CLIP project, but regardless of whether we ask Bryant and Bryant to do something now or keep it in the C-CLIP project, the curb and gutter is not it's a cost that the city would pick up. It's
so
not
it'd be our cost. And I think when we went on that C-CLIP project, we got the maximum $1 million. So we wouldn't
Yes.
want to increase that, delay this and do it as part of that, because then it would be all our out-of-pocket.
Right.
Okay, good discussion. All right, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
6-1. All right. I am not aware of any notices of hearings.
Mayor,
Okay.
the planning commission did meet, and they did approve the site plans for Sunflower UP Federal Credit Union Building Project. There was one thing that maybe changed, the angle of the employee parking. The gentleman who was with Sunflower Credit wanted to come before the city and request a one-way alley, but I think they could just put a sign and have the customers make a left-hand turn. And then also they approved Valley Vet's 20 by 30 dock overhang extension. And they spent considerable time talking about changes to the draft that Craig had prepared on the intermodal container the shipping containers. I guess we'll be discussing that later.
Tonight, yeah. I did talk to Dave today about the Sunflower Credit Union, and we called and let them know that potentially, if we have to do any work on the alley, that there could be potentially economic development grant monies from the state, since it's an improvement, a substantial improvement to an existing business. So we called and let them know that if they're expecting the city to incur any cost, improvement of that alley in any way, to let us know as soon as possible, so that we could apply for this grant. So that specific grant has to be applied for before they break ground. So we did communicate that to the Sunflower Credit Union. And Dave did make me aware of the potential, the flexibility, and I guess they'll come before us, but I just encourage them to come before us as soon as possible. Okay? Thank you, Darlene. All right, now we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is just convention and tourism requests.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. The next item is the appropriations ordinance, and you have distributed around you is just a slight change. It's just a correction. It should be bond and interest rather than bond and interest number 1. That's the only thing that changed, and in the general ledger, it was to the correct fund. And that's, so we just wanted the overview, and that corrected overview will be part of the agenda packet. Okay. So, with that being said, I would entertain a motion for the appropriations ordinance.
Move to approve appropriations ordinance number 3659.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, roll call.
Beichman?
Yes.
Basinger?
Yes.
Boss?
Yes.
Ekis?
Yes.
Gross?
Yes.
Schroller?
Yes.
Traum.
Yes.
7-0.
All right. Our city administrator is out. Congratulations to Austin and Mikeland for a baby boy named Austin Taggart. So he'll miss this meeting, but hopefully, is he expected back sometime this week, later this
I
week?
think Thursday, I'm not positive on that yet.
Okay, so congratulations to their family and glad they have a healthy baby boy. So now our city clerk gets to cover his updates.
Page 19, the Kester House Museum Foundation. You can see a letter here from Sharon Kissinger asking for the city, or actually she's asked the mayor to write a letter in support as she is filling out a Humanities Council Heritage Grant to preserve the museum's library and make it more usable and accessible to the staff. She needed the letter last Thursday, so we put this in here. She said that she could still use a letter. She would keep it in the file if the council wanted to authorize that. She did get a letter from Janice Lynn at the library and from the Historical Society.
So when Debbie received this, I didn't feel like I should write a letter without bringing it to you guys. But she had just requested it last Thursday and requested it Wednesday, needed it Thursday or something like that. So we could go ahead and draft up a letter to say we support this as the city of Marysville and the owner of the Kester House Museum. She, as the best of our knowledge, Sharon is applying for this on her own as a representative of the foundation. Is that what we decided?
Yes.
Okay. So
So the foundation is going for the grant funds, so nothing will come out of the city's funds.
So I guess we could go ahead and write a letter to support it, and in case she needs it for a future grant or something like that, just an overall thing that we support the improvements made by the foundation and the grant applications made related to the improvements, something like that. So is it consensus of council to go ahead and draft that letter and have the mayor sign? Is that all right? Just a
Yeah.
consensus?
Mayor?
Yes.
I have a question. It says they're asking for this heritage grant to preserve the museum's library and make it more usable and accessible to the staff and public. Those books in that museum can be checked out? Is that what they're saying? They're going to allow the public?
No,
Because
they
it's my
have to
understanding.
use them there. We talked about it at the last advisory board meeting, and they would have to use them there, but it's cataloging them.
So you can go to that shelf and pull out a book that was owned by the Kesters.
You'd have to be,
'Cause-
not anybody could do it.
And then sit in their furniture, on the museum furniture, and
That I
peruse
don't-
the books?
That I don't know. But
I mean-
I think you'd have to be you'd have to be part of the Historical Society or a researcher. Just any of us walking off the street wouldn't be.
Well, it says
Probably allowed
more
to.
accessible to the staff and the public.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could even touch those books. I thought a docent would click you away.
I think public's probably used a little bit generically there. I don't.
Well, I'd like to know what they're doing.
Can't remember how many books she said they have there, but they're too deep
Well, it's a fantastic, they're beautiful sitting there. I can't imagine
Yeah.
allowing the public to touch these books that belong to the Kester family. They're part of the museum. I just can't imagine.
I think
Doing
that
this.
the docents are very careful about what goes on, and I think because no one goes through without them right there, that
So-
being accessible versus, I would think they would always be there with the public.
Well,
I
these,
mean, they're as protective of these books and the whole museum furnishings as anyone.
as
so-
the museum is now, you can't get to those books. There's a red velvet rope that ropes those off in the furniture. So they're gonna take the ropes down and let people get behind that furniture and touch those books and take and sit down on this furniture and move it to the parlor? I don't understand.
No, I would guess
Well,
not.
I would like to know what they're talking about. $3,500 to make it more accessible and usable to staff and public? Because I'd have been in there. They've got a nice collection. That'd
Well,
be
it
lovely, but I
says,
can't imagine.
the stored and not cataloged or in a form that they can be easily found or used in any way. So just from a historical standpoint, I think,
There's no catalog of the books. There's no written catalog or electronic catalog of all the books that they have there.
Yeah, they definitely
So
should
it's
have
literally having an historian come in, look at the books, verify, actually somebody has to verify that what it says it is. There's a whole process. That's why they have to hire somebody to do it.
somebody that would know what they
yeah.
would.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't mind to touch them.
okay. Well, if you have a concern, please call Sharon and make sure that you're
For sure,
concerned.
because I asked about that, because I was interested in their library, and I was just imagining the Kester family going in there on a Saturday afternoon and pulling a book off the shelf, and they said, yes, these are the books that belong to the Kesters. They came with the house, they're of the family, and so I just can't imagine allowing them to be checked out or moved or touched
I
by
don't
the
think
library.
they're going to be checked out. There was no discussion of
No
checked
mention
out.
of that.
Well, access to a library, that's what it says to me. Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Debbie.
All right, we are on page 20, and just an update on the Clink project. Last Friday, Hall Brothers requested the notice to proceed to be delayed until October 2nd, and they're maintaining the completion date of November 1st, so when they do start work, it's going to be a little bit busier during construction activities, and I think they'll have more manpower, but, having the extra days will minimize the disturbance to residents and vehicles coming through.
Kevin, I know you were concerned about doing this in October. Are you okay with
I'm
this?
fine with it. I just didn't want it to drag. Well, I think originally they had like an October 18th start date. And that,
It's too late.
and that's too late for the project like that.
So you're comfortable with October 2nd?
Because they have a completion date of November 1st, so.
Okay, are you guys all comfortable with that? All right.
And then on the airport apron, subgrade preparation was finished last week, and the aggregate rock base should be completed by Thursday, this upcoming Thursday. I don't know about this rain now, if it's delayed them any. Paving's scheduled to start Monday, October 2nd, of course, depending on the weather. Kind of a side note, when they were out there doing the pre-construction meeting, they had asked if we wanted the Marysville name to be back on the apron,
Yes.
as it was, and Austin told them to proceed with getting information on what costs would be to do that. And Heather has sent some information back to me saying that the cost of the stencils alone is $4,500 plus shipping. And then to paint it would be $1,500. So I did some research. I reached out to Rich Landell. I kind of wondered how Marysville got there in the first place, who painted it in the first place, do they still have the stencils? Rich indicated that he wasn't aware of how it got there in the first place. He thought maybe a aeronautical club, somebody like that came in and painted it. I then talked to Gary Howland on a different matter and talked to him about Marysville and if he'd seen this and what his thoughts were. And he said that he thought that Paula Landell painted it. Maybe the governor was flying in at some time, but it's been several years. And Dale Richardson told me that he's painted it twice since he's worked here. Probably just, he said mainly snow removal is the hardest on it and weather. And then when they paint it, they just tape it off and paint it. So I did ask Rich, after I got the amount, what his comments or thoughts were. He thought that it was kind of expensive and there maybe was another option. And Gary Howland also kind of thought that that was a little bit expensive, and he suggested maybe just putting a sign on the building with the elevation. He said a lot of airports have their name and their elevation on there because that's how you set your airplane instruments. And of course Dale Olson, the contractors, they have it all drawn up. And Dale said, well, we can do whatever. Have them give me those write-ups. And, I don't know if he's going to tape it out and paint it, or if, the city wants to take it on.
But of course, this is outside the
Right.
FAA grant money, so that $6,000 would all be out of cost to the city. And I guess but the fact that Rich Landell and Gary Howland said it's not really necessary and we can do an alternative thing on the window, kind of like our convention and tourism window, just, Marysville Airport and the elevation.
Everybody agrees it's neat, but
It is neat. And when you're flying into this airport, it's an unattended, no tower, unattended airport. And before landings, the pilots are supposed to use a downwind, base, and final for the approach. And from the air, I've flown into here several times, and you can see that name. You can see Marysville. That's why it's facing the way it is toward the runway, because you can see it looking down on there. It's not, I don't know, I just thought it was necessary. You no doubt what airport you are.
I sent out a listserv to see if any other cities had their names on the aprons, and I didn't get any responses. I also asked Heather if it was possible to use somebody else's stencils, if other airports have this, and she said that they really couldn't find any, so.
So it makes you think that there's not a lot of
think they're bigger.
stenciling done on the airport.
Dale said they're about 8 foot tall, the letters, so.
So do you want to wait at this time, and then if we happen to have some windfall of $6,000, we can always put it on? It's not something that we have to do right now, but if we were going to incorporate in the project, we should go ahead.
Yeah.
So Heather said she already has the materials in case we ever choose to do it, right?
No, if we want to order the stencils, they've got to order them right away because they take a while, so.
So what did she-
Like tomorrow, if I could get back to her and let her know if we wanted to go with this route or.
Talk to the Scouts, see if an Eagle Scout wants to take that on
An
as a
Eagle Scout project. There you
But
go.
without Marysville paying for it, yeah, to raise funds and use that as an Eagle Scout project.
So at this time, is a consensus not to do it? I'd feel differently if both the pilots said we want it, and since both pilots said it wasn't that important, I kind of go with it. So the consensus is to proceed without it, right?
Yep.
All right, Debbie.
Okay, Kester Restaurant stairs. Randy Rickerick informed me on last Thursday that he had went to the stone company on the 15th. They had the restaurant stairs over half completed, but it's a difficult process because the stone company waits for a big chunk with little to no imperfections so the stairs can be as smooth as possible. He'd hoped they wouldn't be much longer, and as soon as it's ready, they'll complete the project. So,
Did you happen to call the restaurant to see if there's been any impact on their business at all? Based on the stair, I mean, they're really accessible to get in and out of the restaurant, so.
I heard from him one time, he just questioned if they were going to come back or when they were going to come back, and we told him we were waiting for the stone, so.
Okay, but there wasn't a complaint or
I don't think so.
anything?
He didn't
Okay.
really.
All right.
And then as a follow-up, last item, emergency management does not provide house numbers, and Todd Schwindeman said he isn't aware of any grant funds for them, but he was going to check around, and I haven't heard anything on it.
Okay, well, that was something we asked her to follow up on last week. I think brought up by Darlene. Okay, does anyone have anything for Debbie? Nice report, thank you very much. Oh, KMIT?
Yes. The league conference, the mayor, Darlene, and David and I attended the league conference, and the annual KMIT meeting is held in conjunction with that. The city did get the Gold Star this year, which is a 5% discount on work comp premium. So, in order to maintain that, it's really the consistent safety committee meetings and the monthly trainings that we're doing. quarterly inspections at least of other departments. So there's a whole safety assessment sheet, and the safety committee's really stepping up, and they're doing a good job. Everybody's doing a good job. So
That's great.
That is great.
So when there were 3 levels, we were silver last year, so I remember after the meeting, I said, now Debbie, I really hope you try to move us to the gold level. So she did.
And
So thank you.
on that note too, I was, this last year, I was president of KMET, and so.
So it
this
really
was
looked
my-
good to be gold.
Yeah, it was my
Gold.
farewell. I am no longer serving on the KMET board, but I appreciate the support and I enjoyed it and learned a lot, so.
And she was a very good representative for our city.
Yes,
She
she
handled the
was.
meeting very well.
Public speaking is something I need a little more of, but it went okay, so.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Thanks.
Anybody have anything for Debbie? All right, we will move along to the standing committee reports on street. I did go talk to the Roads and Bridges Office of the county, and then I also spoke with Daniel Monaco with BG Consultants, and he said our best bet is when they get the access management plan done, they would possibly be funding for 12th and 11th Road. So we're kind of going to wait and hold. The STP funds for the county have been spent through 2019, so there's no rush to get in there and talk to the county about it. But there is a possibility, once they do that access management plan, they are paying that up to $100,000 for the engineering analysis or whatever, and then there's also funding related to that once we follow that plan. So they're believing that there's a potential there, so we hope that comes true. Either way, we can't do anything right now unless we fully fund the project, so hoping we can find some funds to help us with that. Did anyone else have anything on street?
Yeah. I think we ought to take this stoplight on 8th and Center and make it like the one by the old Casey's, where you come by and it triggers. I've seen the light change and nobody on 8th Street to go across.
And then I've seen the light change and people have to run across because it's a short light. So, you know those pads underneath there, are they expensive? I know to make it censored, it was like $30,000 or $40,000. But you know the pads that we have at 14th Street.
Have any idea? David might know more.
Dave, do you
Know
know?
anything about that?
No? Okay. We can look into that though.
The other thing is, I think it'd be great to have a stoplight at 11th Road.
Which that might come into play on the access management plan too. Oh, I should say that when I went, one of the meetings I went to was KDOT grants to make sure we're capitalizing on everything we possibly can. And they said that historic street, or brick streets qualify as historic. You know, every time we've talked about brick streets, we've never talked about getting funding from KDOT for those. So that was encouraging to me. So as soon as Austin gets back, I'm going to have him start writing grants. Because I don't think we've ever heard that before, that brick streets can be considered historic and receive grant funding.
And what are those, Mayor, $800,000 a block to do? Is that right?
Well,
It's
that's how
cost us-
much it was with the water and sewer, but still, if you can get, I think it's an 80-20 split on the
go
historic
for
one.
it.
So, anyway, that was, you know, you're supposed to go to a conference and come back with something that can benefit, and I came away with gun. That's a great win-win, right? And didn't you come back with something from one of your meetings that we said we're going to utilize right away? Do you remember? I know
what it is.
I remember you talked about it. Anyway, that's something about street that we were, you know, like I said, we'll let Austin get back at least a day or two, and then we'll tell him to start writing that grant.
Mayor, are we going to talk about the street or the house numbers again? Instead of just dropping it?
Well, I think we want to wait and see if, I mean, we can wait, at least give Toad a couple months, or a couple weeks to see if he can find it. I think
He
that's
still thinks there might?
Well, he said he was going to look to see if there's grant funding available, so I think we at least have to give him the opportunity. Debbie, maybe you can follow up before the next meeting
Yeah.
and make sure that he's letting us know one way or the other. Is that fair enough? Is that okay, Donnie? All right. Moving along to water and wastewater, anything? I did notice that in Kent's weekly reports, he said all the fire hydrants were painted, and he was starting to do valve turning the valves, which is great. A couple of maintenance things that we've needed done, so that's great. Parks and Rec, Cemetery and Airport, Police and Fire.
Oh, you know what, listen, thank you for the cemetery group for getting all the lawnmowers cleaned and ready for us to ride in the parade.
That was on my round table, but yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to
That's
steal your
okay,
thunder.
that's okay. It was really nice. The Cemetery and Parks guys, I cleaned them all up.
Shut us
And
out of-
especially Wilbur Horman, who taught me and Darlene how to run them. And I'm really grateful that Bill and Brad were behind me, so they stopped. Whenever they saw me start to turn, it's like, we'll just stop and let her turn. Yeah, Cemetery and Parks did a great job, and that was very nice. They were there at the beginning, and they were there at the end, so thank you to Cemetery and Parks.
Well, while we're talking about the cemetery and parks, we got several things, several notes of thanks from people who have parked in our city park. And a couple of names were mentioned. One was Dominic, that he was helpful and he just happened to be down there checking on the restrooms for the weekend and offered to help the people, and they said everybody was so nice and helpful. I think we got like 3 notes this weekend from people who thanked us for having such a nice and clean park, and they did mention Dominic, and I think somebody mentioned Wilbur too, so it's nice when we hear a good thing about them that we pass it along and let them know that we've heard it, and tell everybody about the comments that people say about our city of Marysville.
Did you pass these along to Dominic?
I haven't yet.
Will you do that? And is there another, I'm trying to look here. You say Wilbur was?
So he was mentioned in here somewhere.
Okay, so will you just make sure the employees see this?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, Police and Fire. Dave wants to share. Come on up, Dave. This is Fire Chief Dave, not Electrician Dave. The man of many hats.
Carla and I had a request from Josie Butler. 26 years ago, Jack died in a fire. And she was just made a request to see if we would get a plaque. And I have a picture of him that she sent me. We're gonna get a little plaque, and on October 4th, Wednesday night, her and her family's gonna come down, and we're gonna have a little get together here, and we're gonna put the plaque on the wall out here. And
So we would like-
That's at 6 o'clock, so yeah, whoever
It's
can
a
come.
Wednesday night, so we would really like you guys to come and support that family. They're going to have family members there. We're hoping to have the fire department there. And the fire chief at that time was Charlie Lindeen, so we're hoping that he would come. Denny Rockwell was also on the fire department, so we're hoping that he will share. So it's just a way to honor our fallen firefighter. That he was giving some recognition when it all happened. Do you want to go ahead and explain that to him?
Yeah, they have that. Let's see where we at. Emmitsburg, Maryland. They have the National Fire Academy out there. All fallen firefighters are put on a wall or something out there. I've never been there. So he's recognized there. We went and purchased down in Wichita. They have it's Kansas Fallen Firefighter Memorial down there, and they have that down there with a museum. It's kind of just south of the conference center down there. And we purchased a brick and had his name put down there in the flat walkway and stuff down there.
So this will just be an additional local recognition and put his plaque up on the wall. And we're hoping the Advocate does an article on Jack Butler. It's Donnie Butler's brother.
At 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock on October 4th.
I mean, could you send me
Wednesday.
That'd be great. It's just easier
As a
if I see an
reminder.
email and I know to put it on my schedule at work, so.
David, right here at City Hall or at the fire station back of here?
Where is it at 6
Gonna have
o'clock?
it here.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, then we just take it and we're gonna, on that hallway, that wall in there, it's got a lot of fire stuff on it. We have a big plaque with all the deceased firemen on it now. We just keep adding to it. So I have one spot in there, we can just put his picture, and we're not gonna put it all on one plaque. talked to Jeff today, we're just gonna hang that picture I got and then put a little plaque underneath it.
Oh, okay. Because she sent a real nice picture of him, so.
Yeah,
That's nice, I'm glad.
So thank you, Dave.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, admin and finance?
Mayor,
Yes.
as you know, Dave Richardson and I attended one class. It was a nuisance abatement, keeping your city clean. It was a 3-hour class. Plus, we both attended another session that was presented by an attorney and the assistant county administrator from the United Government of Leavenworth County. And the reason I'm mentioning this now is this was presented, our 3-hour class, by Larry Bayer, who's the general counsel for the league, is that he said this needs to start from top down, which means city administrator, city staff, and council in order to work. And I haven't had time to go through here, but I have some of the statutes and model ordinances and other materials that we can address, to look at our blight problems. And one of the gals from the Leavenworth government said that blight creeps.
That's a good one.
And you may think you're immune to it in one part of town, but it creeps. Mentioned that the legends in Kansas City, that blight had crept to 1/2 mile from there. So anyway, I'm gonna type up some things and give everybody and
Thank you.
share with all of you.
Share with Austin, more that Austin's going to get hit with when he comes back. Okay, well, I think that is something that citywide we do need to consistently apply, and trying to find time for David to do that while he's being an electrician and fireman, so. Okay, thanks for sharing. Is there anything else? I'm not aware of any appointments or wages, so we'll move ahead to the Planning Commission memo, and this is what Darlene was referencing. Dave thankfully wrote it all out, and on your desk is, and we apologize that this wasn't in your packet, but on your desk is the document they were using when they drafted their changes. So Dave, is that, Dave, why don't you come up quick?
Stapled right in there.
Oh, and it's not stapled right either, so there you have it.
Did you receive those things?
I did.
Have a chance to look, or?
I did. Really, I think that by and large, they're,
Not too much change.
no, and they're just something that the council needs to discuss. I don't know that there's legal implications to them. They're more, I guess, quote-unquote, political decisions, not legal decisions. But procedurally, though, I guess under the statute, if the council disagrees with any part of the recommendation or wants maybe further clarification, it can and should be sent back to the commission to address that, to then get resent. It's procedures set forth in a statute when considering a recommendation of the planning commission, which is how I interpret what this is, this memo that's attached, drafted by David. So that the council can adopt the recommendations of the commission. It can override any recommendations with a 2/3 majority vote, or it can return the recommendations to the planning commission with its own statement specifying the basis for the council's failure to approve or disapprove. So if there's something that council is not prepared to approve or disapprove, in those first two options, it would go back down, and we do this again, sort of, at the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting, just to lay out kind of what we're doing today.
I guess one that we were kind of struggling with was the use permitted upon review section. We have the R3 that includes light industry. They're really not in favor of having any canisters in residential stuff. Okay, but wasn't sure if you drop that out, does the light industry, will that follow over to the regular section of light industry one? Because we have light industry down by Tension and we have it out at Hometown Lumber, which that could be possible permanent use, just like your C3 and those out, all the others.
So you're saying our industrial park is I1?
I1 is light industry, and we're basically leaving it out and making it a use permitted. But if we make it a use permitted in the industry section, does that follow back on the R3 with light industry? Because they're kind of tied together, and I don't know if you can separate that. Because R3 with that light industry, the light industry can be a use permitted upon review. But yet we're not in favor of having anything in residential. Or you take the I1 and just throw it out in the industry section.
I think that's what should be done. And then strike this whole paragraph.
You're saying move I1 back to number 2?
I'm just not sure, that's why I was kind of wondering if Craig knows if you can separate the two. Since R3 has light industry and it goes right to the light industry uses when you are down here in R3. So I just don't know if you can pull it off the R3 or not.
If it's R3 and if I1 crosses over into it, I think it should fall under R3. That's residential, no doubt. If industrial is an industrial park, there's no doubt that's what it is. But this zoning was done back when Palmetto was a city. And this was the outskirts of town. And this is now residential, mostly residential. That's why it's R3, residential 3. And if industrial falls in there, then I think it should give way to the residential. These are homes. This isn't industrial areas anymore.
But it sounds like you agreed with that. You're just trying to make sure we're saying it correctly in the document.
We
I think
we don't want anything in the R3.
Right.
Right.
But since it includes...
Which I think that was our intent.
But since it includes I1 with that R3 district, and it has to be a use permitted, can we throw that one out because it bleeds over into your industrial section?
How did it happen that a same district is zoned 2 different types of zoning? How can an I1 and an R3 be the same? How can land fall under both when the light industry is different than the residential single family with restricted light industry?
Probably gonna go back and ask these people that said, okay.
If it says R3, if it's residential, then...
I didn't do these.
I know, my dear, but light industry...
But it might be something nowadays, if we're going to get deeper in the book and reduce more changes, then pull that section off of R3.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Well, we should pull I1 off.
Correct.
Off of the residential.
Correct. I was told over the years they only put that on because of all of plumbing shops and stuff that was down here in that end of town.
Which aren't there anymore.
Plumbing and...
Yeah, they are.
Who's down there?
Gladys,
Gladys is still down there.
Acme Plumbing,
That's not an R3.
yeah, no.
That's an I1.
Right.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
definitely an I1. That's definitely...
But that area had more body shops and plumbing shops and those
Repair
type of
shops.
things that was down there in that end of town. That's why they put that on there. That's what they told me.
But that's I1. And there's not a mixture of homes on the same block. Like Gladys sitting down there, and across the street are homes, but there's no homes on the same block with Gladys.
There was when he had mobile homes there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can't put the mobile homes back.
No, but he did have.
So it's not going to be.
Right.
You could
Ever
put
again.
homes back in there.
Yep.
You mean like a housing division?
Yeah, if you wanted to you could put 2 in there if you wanted to.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to build a home back in there because of what it is. I mean, that'd decrease your property values right there. I don't know anybody that put homes back in there.
Can I suggest we stick to the, because we're not going to change the zoning in this, that's not.
No, not right
this,
now,
can we
we're not.
just, I think we need to stick to the, what we want to change here.
Well, why don't we go through step by step this
What do you-
memo?
Okay. Do you think we would, Craig, you think we'd have to pull I-1 and not allow permanent?
Now, are you saying put I-1 back in paragraph 2? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And strike the next paragraph?
Yeah, that's what they proposed first.
34,
Completely.
yeah, 34.
So the first comment that they made is instead of saying, which makes sense, on number 2, it says intermodal containers shall apply. Well, that makes sense. They're saying it should say property owners should apply. So that was just, that makes sense. Property owners shall apply for a building permit for intermodal containers which are only allowed, blah, 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 right? That's what they were saying. So that's a no-brainer. You guys agree with that change? That makes sense, right? Okay, so the next step is, they said, they had discussion on allowing I-1, and it was, nothing was decided to allow or not. So they left it open for
I don't
us to
think we
do.
really decided, did we? Not 100%. Well, because we didn't know whether we could separate the two. Yeah.
So the key thing is we could put that I-1 back in number 2 and strike the entire paragraph below. That's what they're proposing in their next 2 steps. So how do you guys feel about that?
I'd vote for that.
So strike the use permitted upon review totally
Yes.
and add back the I-1 in this number 2,
You're gonna put I-1, 2, and 3, and then the commercials.
I-1, 2, and 3. Okay. Are you guys all okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next thing, number 4, they're saying,
Temporary permitted use.
they're saying what happens if it's not done after the 2 6-month periods. And about 3/4 of the way down, it says, upon request, the permit may, at the approval of the city inspector, be extended an additional 6 months. We could just say, upon request, may be extended, I mean, that's our option. They're just saying if the construction's not done in 12 months,
I
what are you
don't think
gonna
this
do?
school's gonna be done in 12
No,
months.
because the school's a 430-some day contract.
Yeah.
So they're I mean, the option is just to pull that for the maximum part and just end after be extended, right?
Yeah, I think I think you should have something in there that says the enforcement officer, whoever it will be at that time, should, at his discretion, figure out if this needs another 3 months or whatever.
That's good.
I mean,
Instead of
I feel
limiting
if
it
you don't
to-
have something like that there, then in 12 months, it's completely done, whether they're running along on their project or not.
So just pull the maximum of an additional 6 months out of there, right?
Well, we also had discussion whether to do it 6 months and 6 months.
Well, I think that if you just say it's at your discretion after the first 6 months.
Well,
I
after
mean,
your
you would-
second 6 months.
Well, I was gonna say, if you pull the second part of that sentence, if you pull for a maximum of an additional 6 months and just say, upon request, the permit may be extended at the approval of the city inspector. Any extension beyond the first 6 months is at your discretion.
Okay.
Are you guys okay with that? That makes it
Absolutely.
easy.
Yep.
And then it goes on to say that there was no consensus on the structure fee.
None of them really felt that we should be charging $100 a container for those 40 footers for all these construction outfits. But I think you really have to have some,
I didn't really get that feeling, Dave. Karen is here. Do you have any notes, Karen?
I think a lot of them really didn't want to, they just,
Why not?
I think their discussion was you're just going to bill these people $100. They're going to put it right back onto the city or whoever. Now, see, when I went and, you guys originally said 100 foot for those 40 footers, so I said let's put it at 250 a linear foot.
Right.
That way, if they get a 20-footer,
It's $50.
that's $50.
Yeah. Well, this
Or
isn't a
whatever size
major
they get.
cost, it just kind of pays for the work that it takes for
Yeah, but I mean,
Dave
like-
to be involved.
But like that school down there, it's probably got, what, 10 of them?
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, there's another $1,000.
But that's, okay,
$1,000 every 6 months, and
well, they wouldn't pay the fee every 6 months. They would just pay a one-time fee, right?
According to this thing.
I thought this was paying every 6 months.
I think a one-time fee makes sense,
Okay.
but not an ongoing fee.
But I think you need some type of fee, because I think you should have a permitting process to keep
Incentive.
track of these.
It's an incentive, and
And you-
also.
and you don't wanna do
It is
that.
a good way to track them, that's true. How many they bring
Right.
in? Right. True.
Yeah, and you don't really want to go out and do all that for nothing.
Right.
Are you okay if we just do it, just the initial, rather than every 6 months?
It don't matter, whichever we want to do it.
How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I think
Dave
we do
would
it-
need to contact them again, so he's gonna have time spent again.
I'd say an average project probably don't last too much more than 6 months. And when you get into the bigger ones, I mean, some of these churches and the schools are doing, they're going to take longer. It
Well,
just
I
depends on how
perso-
much, depends on how many times you want to go out there and rewrite a permit.
I'm personally okay with just a one-time, just so he can track the number of containers out there. How do you guys feel?
Well, but if they had 10 and then they end up with 6 as the renewal, you won't be able to track that unless you issue a new permit.
Yeah.
Because they may not keep the same number, right?
Well, yeah, and I bet there's going to be times they'll come in and it'll be dropped and take one
That's
back.
what I was just gonna say. I know on the school project, they came in,
Yeah,
the way they were set, they dumped some. When that was used up, they pulled them out and they dumped another
I
one
think
back.
Casey only had 3 up there at a time, but they'd bring one in with materials, when that material's used up, it was gone, they dropped another one with materials, they just kept.
So
rotating them out.
every time they bring one, you guys want them to pay a fee?
No,
think that
not
was
not
our
as long as they have one, they pick it up
Yeah.
and then drop one, so where there's only one there. at
So
any
total
time.
number at any given time?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it'd be a nightmare trying to keep up with,
Yeah.
when they traded them out and stuff. They may drop down in the middle of the night for them. Unless we have numbers on them and you run around and check numbers all the time.
What else on this?
So you guys want to keep that 250 per linear feet in for the total number of containers for a project? Is that how you want it?
I think so. It's only a one-time deal.
Okay. Are you okay with that,
So for
Dave?
each container they have, then when they trade it out, it's okay.
Yeah, as long as they keep 10. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so, well, and then the next one.
But you're putting it to 6 months. 6 months.
One-time fee.
There'll be a one-time fee for the total number of containers.
But we're only gonna have, they can go 6 months and then I can go out and renew it.
Well, I wasn't, you
I
guys
thi-
want
I
to
think so,
renew? You
yeah.
do?
That's your discretion.
Because that's the way Dave can keep track of it.
Yes.
So you want them to have every 6 months be charged for their containers, basically?
Oh, you wanna charge them every 6?
that
Or
what
just go out and do it? You wanna make it just one for 12 months? And then after 12 months, I can go out and see if they need 3 months more or whatever. And just
Okay,
have-
so our purpose is, what's our purpose in charging
know.
this fee? To make up for his, to
Yes.
cover
You're
his...
gonna have to have
Cover
something
his
for time.
For Dave's time.
Dave's
Okay.
time.
So the key thing is, after the initial 6 months, is there a large amount of time invested in it? For you?
Probably the same old, probably just do the same paperwork. I guess you out running around to see if they had 6 when they started and they got
I know,
8.
it seems like you just go by, there's 10, we're good.
If they got 6
mean-
now and you go by later and they got 8, then you stop and.
Yeah. I think that's the easiest
But
way
you
to
would
do
think they
it.
would come in and take care of that.
Excuse me?
You think they would come in and take care of that?
Yeah, but if not, you can count
they
them,
won't.
1, 2, 3, 4. Do you, okay, so what is the consensus there? I'm trying to figure this out.
I think one-time fees.
One time?
One-time fee.
Okay with
Bill?
one time.
Feet.
One time?
fee.
Darlene wants every so often. You want one-time
One
fee?
time's fine, it's fine.
Vic?
One-time fee.
Denny?
Probably.
And Kevin? Okay, you're overruled. We're going with it. So one-time fee for the number of containers, and then you just have to track the number there. Not the individual containers, just the number of them there.
For 6 months, 12 months,
I was gonna say for the project.
or for the project? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys agree with that?
So just take the months thing out of there and make it for the
Make it for the
project.
project.
Yeah.
Okay. That'd be simplest.
That way they would have to give you a completion date.
Yeah, and then if it went longer, we can, okay.
Okay, then the
Yeah, we
next,
can make a completion date on there, because a lot of them would know. 400 days or,
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
okay, so that's number 4 on this memo, and number 5, they wanted to open that up to everyone. All zones, right, Dave?
I think, I think it was.
Permit use for shipping and receiving, they're saying all zoning districts. How you guys feel about that? It's
That would
just
be-
shipping and receiving.
That'd be for someone moving in and moving out, or,
Uh-huh.
Yes.
that'd be like those pods they show on TV where they bring and drop them, and
Yeah, but I don't see that happening a whole lot in a residential.
I don't either.
The only thing that got into is you got Chromies and Pepsi. He doesn't at this time, but he's in a C2, and that wasn't included in the first one.
Well, shipping and receiving though, that isn't gonna set down, that's gonna go in and out, right?
Right.
Usually. Or they'll set it
That's
down, they
never been a
take the stuff out, and come back and pick it up next week or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing we could do is we could put a time frame on it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna,
Is that what you were gonna recommend?
yeah, just so it doesn't become open-ended.
So, what kind of time frame do you think?
30 days.
Oh,
was gonna say
30,
a
I was
week.
gonna say 7.
Yeah,
What?
I was gonna say a week, but
Because
for
just
for
said,
receiving, shipping.
Well, I have a
receiving.
place I can see you're probably gonna get longer in your, or at your 30 days, probably like Walmarts and stuff like that for Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
They bring those,
they'll
in.
have a container sitting out there for 30 days?
They bring those
They bring-
containers in and sit back there.
Sometimes 6 months.
Yeah, because they bring those, like,
Spring
bring spring stuff in, and
Yep,
But that's on their property.
correct.
Still make a difference.
Still zoned under the city of Marysville.
I don't
Well,
think
do you
it's
want to
on their
make
property.
a time frame for 2 separate zoning kind things? Like all the residential have to be 7 days and all the rest can
That
be
might be good.
Yes. that's a
time
good
frame of
idea.
7 days for residential and all others, what time frame do you want?
Okay, okay, somebody had a problem with their house, and they had to move their furniture out to have their house worked on, and they put one of these containers in
Like a
their
fire or
yard.
something.
Yeah, they put one of these containers in their yard. And, I mean, there's gotta be allowance for that.
Well, this
No,
isn't
we're
shipping
doing-
and receiving.
Yeah, we're doing shipping and
That's
receiving.
temporary, but that's a temporary situation in a
That
residential.
would be in the temporary permit.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
That's coming up in,
Okay.
yeah, that's what we were doing the
That
other
was
night.
back here.
Okay.
We got to jumping and we had to,
Rein it in.
Back.
yeah.
Well, right now, we don't
Yeah, we
have
got it.
it for shipping and receiving in residential. We don't
We
have
shouldn't be the
have
shipping
that
and receiving
addressed.
residential.
Well, but that's what they're saying, is that they think there should be shipping and receiving for all zones, right, Dave?
That's what was discussed, so shipping and receiving. Yeah, originally you just had C3, I1, 2, and 3. Yeah, if we leave out the residential, I think the C2 ought to be at least put in there.
Okay, put
Just
C2 in there.
Just for this area here. I don't think you'd have, I don't know if anything downtown on Main Street would have I don't know. It's hard to tell what would happen.
Well, so that where it lists Pepsi and Chromie, those are C2s.
General commercial district.
So were there any other,
I'm sure.
because they actually, they said all rather than just adding C2.
Not all, I think residential should be exempted.
I don't think we talked about allowing it in residential. Karen, do you? The shipping and receiving.
Sure, come up. You're on the committee. Come up to the podium so we all hear you.
One time.
Karen Hughes, she's
I'm Karen
on the
Hughes. I
planning
am
and zoning.
on the planning commission, and I did attend the meeting. I didn't bring my notes, however, but one time that situation could apply is if somebody, say, is building or make an addition to their house or something like that, they may get supplies or building materials in a container. So you can't tell them that they cannot receive a container. It's just a big box, that's all it is. I mean,
That's true.
Well, what do you think about the 7 days limitation? You think that's too tight?
I don't. Maybe 10 days at the max, I would say. But like Vicki was pointing out, the temporary, that, like a person who had a situation where they had to use it for storage for their house, furnishings or whatever, that would be, like Dave said, under the temporary permitted use. And that's being allowed all over in town for that kind of a situation. So, but I can see that there might be an event that you would get a container shipped to your house. I can visualize that happen. I actually had one come one time in the building our house.
Yeah, I mean, if you remodeled your old kitchen and
you ordered supplies or building materials,
everything come at once.
especially if somebody was, say, doing a do-it-yourself project or something.
Are we overcomplicating with this one?
Oh, I think
Yeah, I
way
think so.
overcomplicated.
The thing is, this is to protect us if somebody's
Abusing.
basically, if somebody brought in for a week, nobody's going to complain. It's there for 2 months, so it feels like we're trying to address a
We had to
problem.
comment and just turn a blind eye, and we're not going to do that.
Huh?
Nobody wanted to do that.
Well, no, dude, I'm not
But-
suggesting you turn a blind eye.
But that's why we're trying to get it where
Okay, I'm just.
fine tune it a bit.
Well, what are you
better.
proposing, Brad?
I think
on that
I
one?
think we're already covered. I mean, if somebody has a problem, we already have the ordinance to cover it. I don't know. I think we're
That's
trying to
what I
make.
think.
I think we're trying to make a lot of exceptions, which is overcomplicating.
And
So you don't think we should add residential to that shipping and receiving?
And if it becomes something we need to address, we can,
So
We
are
can
you,
always
so
change
you
this.
say add C2 only to that? And do you want to add a time frame or not?
I don't think.
Oh, you're saying no because of Walmart
just think
is your example.
Yeah, I just think we just don't add anything. I think.
But then
You don't even add C2, what C2 is Chromies and Pepsi.
But then when a city inspector drives by and they see one sitting there in somebody's yard, what will they do? I mean, there needs to be something that
Turn a blind eye.
no, I mean, that isn't what anybody wants to do. The residents want to be in compliance, so you need to give them the authority to say that they can receive a shipping container if that event occurs.
All right, I'll use the example. Somebody puts a car up on blocks and it's not licensed. We still have to go through a process. We don't have an ordinance that says, okay, you got 10 days. I'm just saying we're trying to address, if there's a problem, we'll address it, but by the time it gets addressed, it'll be gone. So it feels like we're trying to create an exception that, so to me, that's not a perfect example, but.
When you're taking the time and effort to write an ordinance like this, though, you should start with, this is the perfect world, and then we go from there. I mean, you should start out with the maximum enforceable ordinance to be, at the beginning. That would be my thought.
Craig's got it right.
no, I think that would be hard to enforce.
Okay, so,
These
What
are
do
just
you
our
want-
thoughts.
So what-
I'll read we through these out, then you guys can bust them again. And
going back to this permitted use for shipping and receiving, what do you want there? What changes do you want made in that paragraph?
To me, just add C2.
Are you all okay with adding C2?
Yes,
And that's it?
yes.
Okay. Only, okay. All right, and number 6, because it needs to be removed, it needs to read all containers and guns.
not sure where you're headed with that.
6. Oh.
That was put in there for the people that already have them, so when they sell their property, it can no longer stay there.
So if you get a permanent, if we go through a permanent use here, and building permit and everything is done for that, and you sell your property, it's gotta go.
Well, that's the reason that was put in.
I mean, if you get a legal permit to put up a garage and you sell me the property, I gotta get rid of the garage. That's all we were.
So you
they
think
were
that,
all-
you think we initially put that in when we were trying to do, combining the two ordinances? And if we're just looking at our rules going forward, that doesn't have to be in it, only for the grandfathered in ones, does this have to be there? Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't know. I don't know what you guys were.
I'll give you an example of that. R3, there's containers in R3, and they were permitted before we undertook this of trying to make some sort of rules and regs for them. So now when that property gets sold, we have just said we're not going to allow them in R3,
Well, we're gonna,
so that has to go.
now keep in mind, this is our ordinance of going forward.
Right.
These are our rules.
Right.
We're gonna have another ordinance for the grandfathered in ones that we would put that restriction.
Okay, but this,
Okay? Yeah, that's
This-
what we had
So
in
at
mind.
this point in time, we're addressing as if there's no grandfathered in ones.
Okay.
This is supposed to be prepared like there's no grandfathered in ones.
okay, but this says transfer of containers. Okay, so that section, all permits obtained on any intermodal container, that means that those with permits, it's null and void
Right,
when you sell it.
So
If
you
they
think,
had a permit, I can see what you're saying,
yeah,
there's a trailer back there, like at Lattice. If you're a grandfather that in, if he sells that property, then that one has to go. It doesn't have a permit on it. But if you have a legal permit, building permit to put that there, why should the next owner have to get rid of it?
because we're saying we're not allowing them in our residential. We're not allowing them. So when that property sells, that's got to go out of there. It's not going to get to be grandfathered. It now does not
Okay.
meet zoning. That's what we had in mind.
but these are for all these are going forward what rules we want. We're ignoring right now the 6 building permits that are in residential that we don't want to keep. Right, Dave?
It's not
I'm not
also-
sure what's going on with this
I just
one.
know what our intent was when we put that in there.
Was your intent related to the ones that the building permits have been issued?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's going to be a separate ordinance.
Okay.
So do you want to just pull number 6 out then? Because now we're just talking about ones that are in compliance with this. Okay? Is that all understood? So we're going to pull 6.
Will your other thing cover that, Craig?
We have a second ordinance that's going to be drafted for the grandfathered in ones, right? That's what we decided to do, separate the 2.
Yeah, I haven't been privy to that.
When was that decided?
No, I sent you an email and said instead of trying to tie in the grandfathered ones, and you said, yes, that would be easier. So
By some sort of resolution.
So this one is just addressing, going forward, what our rules are gonna be.
Nothing about
And then
that.
we're gonna have a second ordinance that says, for the ones that building permits have already been issued, this is the procedure. And that would be in that. Does that make sense? Because this one, we won't be issuing permits that are not allowed in.
Right.
Going forward.
Right.
So we don't need that in this one. Got it?
I hear what you're saying, but I think we do need it. But I don't know anything about this ordinance you're talking about, this next one. I haven't read it.
separate ordinance.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, so.
The separate ordinance,
If it-
separate ordinance for the grandfathered in ones has to be done the same time we approve this one. Whenever we finalize this one, the second ordinance is gonna have to come and address the grandfathered in ones, and they will specifically say upon sale of that property, they will have to remove it.
Okay. All
So
right.
6 and 7 should both be scratched then.
No,
Ooh,
7,
I think you need a signage,
yeah, we still want them, to-
the painting.
yeah. We still want them to make it
Fit
look
in.
nice, wherever it is.
Are we gonna address the ones,
If it's permanent, because that's suggesting
Yes,
permanent ones.
I think so.
the grandfathered thing is gonna make them paint them because they're not being painted
I think they
down?
need to be.
The grandfathered ones will be painted as well.
Right.
Okay. So on the paint one, it was just saying we should invoke a time frame,
I think
which
so.
makes sense.
Yes.
So on that first sentence, we could say within 30 days or the permit is revoked or something.
Yes,
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 Okay.
good point.
move it.
What about in the wintertime? I mean, it's not that good conditions in the wintertime to paint something. I mean, you're lucky to have 30 days, nice weather in the wintertime to paint something.
Probably wouldn't
So-
stick on that cold metal, would it?
So,
Probably wouldn't
Weather
even stick on
permitting?
the cold metal.
30 days.
Should we just add
permitting.
weather permitting?
okay, so within 30 days.
Now you're complicating it. Yeah.
The whole thing's complicated.
Yeah, it is.
It just keeps getting worse.
Chewing an oyster.
Weather permitting, you'll make that sound pretty, right, Craig? Okay, that addresses all their comments. Obviously, we're making changes, so we'll have to go back to the planning commission. Did you get all those changes, Craig? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so on the second one, the second ordinance, it's basically gonna say, it's gonna refer only to the grandfathered ones, and it's only gonna address basically that transfer of containers issue and the paint and signage. Agreed?
Yeah.
Those are the only two things we're gonna do. And are we gonna specify all the ones that the building permits have been issued specifically? So we can identify if people have moved in without a building permit since we had the moratorium? How do we do that? He has the specific addresses for the building permits he issued. Then we had a moratorium, but between that, during the moratorium, if anybody moved in more containers, how would we address that?
People moved in containers
Well,
contrary to a moratorium?
yeah, I'm just saying, you issued 6 building permits, right? Or 8? I don't know how many you issued.
Yeah.
Has the city addressed those containers that moved in during the moratorium?
They slid in under the wire.
Well,
We
I'm sure
didn't-
there are a few out there that were out there before that.
Okay. I think that's up to council what it wants to do with those, or if it wants to include those in this grandfathering ordinance. I don't know. This is
Seen it.
just the first I've heard of that, or that I recall.
I don't know if some of them,
I mean, I've seen some creep
I
in.
think when we annexed out there east.
But if it doesn't have a permit, we should just tell them to move it. I mean, they're out.
They have to obey this.
Yeah, if they're out of compliance, they're out of compliance.
So just for the building permits that we have issued,
Yeah.
let me ask you.
Or if they're in a C3 out there, they can get a permit.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Well, they'd
right.
be in
They can
compliance
get
with
a
this, though,
permit if they're,
right?
yeah.
They can go
Yeah, a
ahead
few of
and,
them on the east side
Yeah.
out there would,
I'm saying
yeah, so they would
it's
obey,
just have to make them get a permit.
yeah, they would obey according to this. And the grandfathered ones are the ones that have a separate ordinance that are gonna say, these specific, I'm just trying to figure out, are we gonna specify the ones that you've already issued a building permit in the ordinance? Or just say all building permits issued as of this date, or how are we gonna handle that? Or you'll handle that with Dave?
I can. The direction would be certainly accepted. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if that's
So
a legal
anyway, the
decision.
second ordinance is gonna be all the ones that are grandfathered in, that have building permits issued. The two things they have to do is they have to
Paint?
do the paint and signage, and they have to do that comment that, the transfer of containers, that when they sell the property, they have to remove the container. Is you okay with that, Dick? That's what you were concerned about? Is that the only two
So I can
things?
see what you're saying now with that, so.
Yes.
Before it wasn't making sense the way I was looking at it.
And see, both ordinances will have to approve simultaneously, so the building permit ones aren't
be-
out of compliance.
It'd be a permitted use as right now, and if they sell it, it's into not a permitted use in it, so it would have to go.
And the ones that are here that got in before we started this process, they're not painted. So now, is this grandfather thing going to make them paint these?
They're gonna,
Yes?
oh, they have to go, they have to go. If they're not in a permitted, if they're there and they're against the ordinance, then they have to go.
No, well, she's saying about the ones that have a building permit.
Yeah, no, if they.
They have to
right,
paint
You were
them.
saying that
The
the
one
ones
got
that
a building
moved
permit,
in.
he was told to paint it way back and he
Yeah.
hadn't done it. That's why I think we need a
That's-
time frame.
That's my concern. Some of them just look like a boxcar
Yeah.
that somebody pulled the wheels out from under. They're sitting on residential property, and somehow or other, they need to be in compliance as far as us painting them, making them look like, you know, they're not offensive to the neighborhood.
So that if you just put those 2 points and the grandfathered in ones will be okay.
Can we add
Yes.
10 to that instead of paint too? I mean, if they don't want to paint it, can they put colored tint
Yeah,
on
it says, yeah, it'll say 10
Okay.
or like material in the surrounding neighborhood, yeah.
Now, what about if they actually make their container look like a shed, end up putting rafters on it and stuff like that? The property gets sold, that still has to be removed.
If it's in a residential, well, you know that one guy that had his look like, we never even knew it existed and then found out it was, does he have a building permit?
Doug Otto. Yeah.
He does have a building permit. Okay, so he'd be part of that. So,
There was a company out there that makes roofs to go on these things.
so your
Stuff,
point
so-
My
is,
point is, if I take a container and make it look like a shed with the rafters and everything on it, does that have to be removed if I sell that property?
because you're in a residential that it shouldn't be.
It's kind of hard to do that if it makes it look like a building.
Well, what's the consensus of the group? I thought our consensus was they had to remove it, but
I think we ought to leave it that way.
I do too.
I mean, if I get a permit, just put up a building or a container and they look both the same,
Or if you get a container and you put inside a larger garage,
yeah,
to store stuff inside more secure, you never know the container was in there.
that's my quote, you know.
I thought we scratched the provision that removed the container.
Thought about it.
we did that on the non-grandfathered one.
Right.
Yeah.
That not,
Now we're talking about the
Example?
grandfathered one, because he's saying,
saying an
one-
existing one that does that?
yes. He's saying one that is currently in existence, right? That has a
Ones that are already
building
out
permit.
there.
Yeah.
If they actually make their containers look like a building with the wrappers and tin and the whole 9 yards, I mean, it's,
But then you're gonna make it discretionary, and
well, I know. I mean, what about if, let's say one of them actually does that? What are we gonna do?
Well, they probably won't now because they'll have to get rid of it. So I'm guessing unless there is literally some, like you said, there's somebody that did do it, but I wouldn't do that if I,
It was just
Yeah.
temporary while I was there, yeah.
so, okay, so Keith doesn't think, Bill, how do you feel?
I don't know anymore.
Okay, so you know what we're talking about. Grandfathered in ones, whether when they sell the property, they have to get rid of it. Absolute get rid of it. And you
Yeah.
feel, yes, Darlene,
Yes.
Bill, Fred?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so they absolutely have to get rid of it in the ordinance of the grandfathered building permitted containers. You got that?
I got it, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else? So what we're gonna have to do, draft up these 2 revised ordinances. They'll have to go to the planning commission.
When's the next meeting, Dave?
Okay,
When's the next meeting?
When's your next meeting?
second Thursday,
Second Thursday.
October.
12th, October 12th?
You're closer than I am.
October 12th. Will you be able to do that? Okay. All right. We knew that was gonna be the tough one. Jeez.
That wasn't bad.
It was shorter than your planning and zoning commission meeting, right?
It's getting closer.
Okay, thank you, David. Make sure you tell the Planning and Zoning Commission thank you for their efforts on this. Okay, and Craig, you're going to talk about the IRA?
Yeah, I can briefly. I don't know of any legal reason that the city couldn't have this money directed to the MCAC from this IRA through Fidelity, I guess, but that's a very limited kind of legal conclusion such that it is. It's not speaking to what Fidelity can do. And I'm not purporting to give Fidelity legal advice as to how they do that. That's up to them. And it sounds like they have an idea, from what I've read, that they're okay with giving it to the MCAC. And if they require the city to do something in order to allow that, well, I think that's a decision for the council to make. I don't see any legal reason it couldn't do that. But that's more, again, of a...
Well, do you believe the documents are saying the money's supposed to go to Leadam Art Center or supposed to go to MCAC? What do you believe that the intent of
I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, can't you tell based on...
No, because the reason is I think that's beyond the scope. I don't represent either that estate, nor do I represent Fidelity, and I'm very cautious to give a legal answer to that, what the intent of the deceased was.
So what's the beneficiary listed as? What does it specifically say?
I don't know, I haven't seen a document that lists the actual beneficiary. I've
You
seen
haven't
some
got it from
correspondence.
Fidelity?
No. Is it not Leadam Art Center?
Yes.
I have a letter from Mr. Lynch, seems to indicate that, but I haven't seen the actual Fidelity paperwork.
Well, if the Leadam Art Center is owned by the city, wouldn't the monies come to the city and then once we get it, we have the discretion to do whatever we want with it? But shouldn't it come through the city?
Well, again, I think that it's a good question. I think it's for Fidelity to answer, and their legal counsel.
Okay.
They hold the account.
So...
Are they asking the city that question? Fidelity? And I mean, I guess I would like to talk to...
Did you talk to Fidelity?
No. I haven't talked to a representative or legal counsel from Fidelity about it.
I think you need to talk to Fidelity.
Okay. And they could certainly call me, too. I mean, I guess...
Well, you have all the documents, right? Right, he has all the
I didn't give him
documents.
the book.
You what?
All I have is the book. I didn't give him the book. I gave him all the stuff that Sharon.
That's what I meant, yeah. So you have all the information that Sharon gave us? To contact Fidelity.
I don't know. I don't know what Sharon gave you, so maybe I do. I guess I'm just being, I don't want you to feel like I'm being non-responsive here. I just don't know if this is a question for the city of Marysville legal counsel to answer. How money is bequeathed through an IRA that is not held by the city. I don't think that's our question to answer. I don't really want to intervene into that legal question, quite honestly. It's Fidelity's.
But you need to contact them.
Why is that? I guess...
Because according to Sharon, the beneficiary was the Leadam Art Center, which is owned by the city.
Okay.
So it seemed reasonable for you to contact Fidelity.
To do what?
Representing the city.
To do what?
To receive the funds from the IRA.
You want the city attorney's office to receive the funds? I mean, I guess they can, I don't see any legal reason they can't bequeath it however it was designated. If they have a question about the legal, or how to do that, where it goes, I think they need to answer that. And if that's making an inquiry with my office as the city council, then they can do that.
I think the problem was that they need an entity with a
tax ID number.
Tax ID number.
Right.
Because the IRS likes to know where IRAs go.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and this would be, there was...
Fidelity is acknowledging that Marysville is the owner of the Leadam Art Center, because they're saying to us, we need you to release us to give this money to these people.
That's not, I brought this, I had Sharon bring this to the council. The original letter was signed to the Leadam Arts Council, which was just defunct, and MCAC took over for that council. Willa Griswold was president of that group. So the correspondence was with her, and I don't think everybody else has seen what the correspondence said. So that's where the bequeath was made in a letter to Willa Griswold. So, but that group no longer exists. So, and again, and it states in the thing, it's to the art center. But they've never said, well, who owns the building? That it never came up in any conversations. It was the daughter came to us, and
Did she come to you, or you just happened to be at the same place she was?
she came to us because we had the services. I brought it up because as we started to finish up the process, I was concerned that was not fair to the city to not bring this up because the city does own the building, but I'm the one that brought that up.
Okay, well, what's the holdup then? Why hasn't the money already been changed hands? If it was
Because-
your idea, not Fidelity's, why hasn't Fidelity already released that money?
We put the process on hold until we talked to the city. Because Sharon was ready to, and I'm not sure I really should be. I feel like I'm a little bit of conflict of interest here, but Sharon was ready to finish filling out the paperwork and send it into them. And as far as I know, they were ready to give the money. And before she did that, I realized probably we needed to.
Okay,
bring
was
this
she
up
to
here.
tell them where that money was to be spent? Because it was my understanding that he bequeathed this money because he went to church when that was a church and not the art museum, and he wanted this money to be spent on the art museum specifically, not given to an entity to spend as they see fit, but a designation of how it was to be spent, and it was to be spent only on the art museum. Am I understanding that right?
I couldn't, I'm not sure I could address. I don't know
I
that he
guess
said it was
too,
how to be
if it's
spent.
supposed to go to the Lee Dam Arts Center Council, then I guess the key thing to me would be that if you give it to MCAC, they don't automatically use it on the Lee Dam Arts Center. It can be used anywhere in Marshall County. And so since it was supposed to go to the Lee Dam Arts Council, if it comes to the city, then we can direct it. To be honest, when you told me it was $4,000, my first guess was, oh, well, great. Well, half of it will pay for $2,000 of the air conditioning and $2,000 will pay for the heating, and we both win, and it's all towards the Lee Dam Arts Center. I mean, and I haven't ever said that out loud, but that was just like in my head, like, this makes a win-win for all
Is there
of
a
us.
probate case open on this estate? And if so, is there an executor of this estate? Or is there a lawyer involved with this estate?
These are your
questions. They are my
Fidelity.
questions.
Fidelity will know
I don't
that.
know that it's the city's place to interpret the intent of a testator. I don't know that it's MCAC's place, or they have the authority to interpret the intent. I don't even know if it's Fidelity's, but that's obviously the issue we have here, is that potentially somebody has listed as a beneficiary an entity or something that cannot actually accept funds because it doesn't have a tax ID number. It's a building. So then where does it go? Again, I don't know that that's the city's issue to decide.
Fidelity.
It's Fidelity who holds the money, or probate court. And if there's a conflict of where it should go, well, that's maybe a matter that would have to ultimately be litigated. I don't know that, but we're not there
I
yet.
don't litigate that.
Right.
If MCAC will agree that that money will go to the Arts Center and it can be used half on the air conditioner, half on the heating, then let's just move this forward and get that money. If all they need is some paperwork from us. But is that agreed? I mean, we need to know that MCAC will agree.
Well, we were going to use it towards the new AC. It was to go to the building. That was the intent. Now,
Well-
again, I don't.
The intent, then maybe we need to get that in writing and let them know that that's, the city agrees and you agree and that's where it's gonna go and it's gonna go on the Arts Center. Send it to them and let them decide if they wanna release the money under those conditions.
I'm happy to contact Fidelity, get some of my questions answered. If there is an attorney involved with the estate or an executor of that estate that would handle
Well, the whole
these
point,
funds
Yeah,
and
we don't
interpreting.
wanna argue, we're all.
the whole point was to make it legal.
Yes.
The transaction legal.
Right.
So,
Well, I don't see any, look, if the decision is, does this money need to go straight to the city, and the city figures out where it goes, or rather go to MCAC, I think the city could vote either way on that. This council could, potentially, if a vote was asked of the city, meaning that if Fidelity or the
Agrees.
executive of that estate says, we want to put it to the city, how it wants that money to be to be bequeathed. I don't see any legal reason you couldn't have a vote like that. But I don't know that we're there yet. I guess I haven't heard that
You first, yeah.
affirmatively from Fidelity that that's what they want. Now, perhaps they do. And if there is a probate case open and an executor of this estate, then I think that person needs to weigh in.
So you'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't want to litigate, we're all on the same team. We're just, the two entities, we're on the
I will
same
just
team.
throw out that by the end of the year, we have to, because the money
Yes.
goes away.
Oh,
So,
yeah, that's
which we
very-
got plenty of time. I mean,
Why does it go away?
it had a 12-month, basically, if it hasn't been distributed in 12 months, and so, and I don't know if it's exactly the end of the year. So,
So is,
That's probably an IRA regulation.
so Craig, that's probably when the probate, it has to be probated?
Yeah, that's
And that's the
probably
end of it?
an IRA
You think it
regulation.
is?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll come back with more answers?
Yes.
Your questions answered at least. Okay. Anything else, Craig?
Nope.
All right, I don't know of any reason for an executive session. Anyone? All right, so we will move along to roundtable. I just want to say that we went to training, Debbie, Darlene, and Fire Chief Dave Richardson, and there was a lot of things that, there were a lot of takeaways. I'm just going to mention a couple things. The keynote speaker really emphasized leadership and that we were elected to govern and expected to lead and to make those difficult decisions and to create public policy and to provide equality of service to all residents. That was my takeaway from the keynote speaker. I also went to the KDOT training, which I learned about the historic bricks, or the historic streets, the brick streets that could be considered historic, so that was helpful.
Yes.
And went to a 2020 consensus workshop. It talked about how important to get the numbers correct, so hopefully everyone will participate in that. We get funding based on the 2020 census. And also they gave us interim information that will be very helpful comparing city to city. So I learned a lot there. They also had a seminar on collaboration between governing bodies, i.e. the county, the school district, and the city working together for the common good of all of ours, the residents. So I think that's something that takes a lot of work, but I think some of it has to start with conversations, and so I thought that was important. The ethics and civility training that I went to, my comment that I took away from that was strive for a wise outcome rather than a victory, and that conflict is normal and can motivate change. So as long as we respect each other's opinions and respect each other. So I thought that was a good takeaway from that. It also talked about the importance of communication with the public. And the one thing that Debbie and I went to was on public sector retirement and developing compensation packages. It was kind of geared towards the younger employees, but it really applies to everybody, but really emphasizing about explaining compensation to them, the importance of retirement compensation, and possibly instituting a defined contribution plan, right? And maybe doing something with matching dollars. We do have a lot of employees that are close to retirement, and they talked about how we as the employer are supposed to come alongside and provide information for them so they are aware of what their retirement looks like. This is what your money's going to look like. You know, from an older stand, it might be a little hard to digest. A younger employee might give them, if they see all the benefits of the retirement and additional compensation packages that we can get younger employees. So I thought it was very helpful. It kind of reaffirmed our concept of explaining to people what their benefits are, which I think we've had this discussion for a couple of years. And now that Austin is doing these reviews, it's the perfect time to implement these compensation packets so that our employees know what their future holds as well as their current holds. So I learned a lot from that. Is there anything else you want to add about that training? That's great. It was a lot of information that I guess I really didn't see it as the employer was responsible to do all that to actually help with their retirement planning, but they said it was very beneficial in retaining employees. So with that being said, the training was excellent. And the only other thing I wanted to note was I saw this Alcove Spring Journal that there's going to be a walk, run, and bike on October 15th at 9 a.m. And I'm sad it's on a Sunday morning because I can't go, but I hope it's well attended. And I would love, they said they have new trail. And I haven't been out there in a very long time, so I'm just sad it's not a Saturday. Saturday I can make, Sunday I can't, so. But hopefully it'll be well attended.
New trails.
Have you done the new trails at Alcove Springs?
Not all of them. I've been on some of them.
Yeah. On biking? Did you do biking?
I walked them.
You walked them? Okay, so anyway, just another area that I think sometimes is overlooked in Marysville. All right, Keith?
Nothing.
Bill? Darlene?
Well, I would like to encourage all the members of council to go to the next league meeting, which will be in Topeka next October, because with just 4 of us, we couldn't participate in all the different seminars that were presented. And if we have more there, then we can.
I got a lot out of this training.
I did too.
What they presented. Different things like the deferred compensation packages and things like that. And the nuisance abatement, I don't remember having them on that either, so. Or I should say, they've touched briefly on that, but not in depth like they did.
Not a 3-hour class.
Yeah. Anything else?
No.
Brad?
I just want to thank everybody for going. I have been one year and it was very helpful, so I thank you for staff.
Bringing
and-
home
Yes.
some things we can implement. That's the key thing. If we bring home something to implement. Vicki?
I just want to say what a great homecoming it was. We participated as a council in the parade. We rode the city's lawnmowers, thanks to Parks for getting the lawnmowers. I was going to ride my own, but it wouldn't start, so I got the oldest and the smallest mower, and I brought up the rear. And at first I pitched a tantrum because it was a hot day, and I thought that mower for sure was going to break down. And as I sat in line, it began to smell and overheat, and so I took mine out of line and started riding it around before the parade, and I decided that was so much fun, I'd just ride in circles. So I had a heck of a good time in the parade. I think more people should participate. Town was covered. Both sides of the street downtown, people were down there to see. Too bad we can't throw candy. The kids would love to have that, but we can't, so we have to make the best of it. But I want to thank United Bank and their employees, one, for sponsoring the tailgate party after the parade and before the game, and also for their employees manning the T-shirt booth and also serving the food. Thank you, United Bank, for doing that for our community and our high school. And congratulations to the King and the Queen. And congratulations to Marysville for a win. Unfortunately, this last week we lost to Concordia, but that'll be the last loss for the year. So
Is that your prediction?
That's my prediction. Go Bulldogs. Go Bulldogs. So it's always good to see the people of Marysville coming out and pulling together and having a good time like homecoming brings to us. That's all. Thank you.
Denny?
Well, I drove by Walter's place up there, and he's got more stuff out there than he ever had out front and stuff. Bicycles, he's got a tarp up, or tent-like deal up there, and all a bunch of new stuff underneath of it, and
Dave's trying to hide right now, but have you gone by Mr. Molnarik's house?
he's got way more stuff than he had before.
Figured he was getting ready for the garage sale.
I thought he was too.
But that's all I had.
So you're on it, right, Dave?
Mayor, there was a comment that the council can't be like a toothless dog.
We're not supposed to be like a toothless dog. Okay.
It's time to reissue.
So go for it, right? Bite? Take a bite?
Go Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs. There you go. Okay. All right. Well, more marching orders for David. Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.